The request lines are open.
Oh my God, look at that. The Radio DJ Dude request lines are going nuts. And look who's on line one, all the way from Australia. When he's not having high jump contests with kangaroos, he's running an automated radio station. It's none other than my broadcasting buddy, Brad. And make no mistake about it, Brad, this video is all about you. And Brad ponders, how can he incorporate live traffic reports into his automated radio station? He doesn't want to have to be duct taped to Radio DJ in the station, manually importing these files and getting them on the air. Is there a simple automated solution to not only automate traffic reports, but this could be used for news or entertainment reports? Any pre-produced piece of audio that you want to get on your air without your fingers actually having to click buttons to make it on the air. Well, I'm Jeff, the Radio DJ Dude, and I'm cooking up an easy solution to that question right now, as we do it by request. Well, of course, I'm going to deliver the how-to get top-of-the-hour traffic and news reports on your station, but the most important question you have to ask yourself is, do you really need them? Do you really need to run that kind of content if you're an internet-only station that serves the world? Who cares what the traffic's like in Sydney if most of your listeners are coming from New York City? So the real question you need to ask yourself before making any decision regarding your radio station is, will this delight my listeners? Is this going to improve my sound, keep them listening longer? And to interrupt all the hits of the 70s with a news and traffic report where one really isn't needed, maybe isn't the best move. Sure, you sound like you're a hot, happening, big-time radio station, but is that what your listeners are looking for? So with that in mind, here we go. And to get this done, you really only need three things. One, Radio DJ. Come on, say it with me. Duh. Software that'll automate tasks or workflows. And three, the recorded content, your traffic or news reports. So numero uno, as they don't say in Australia, let's set up an automated workflow. While Microsoft would love for you to use Power Automate, and I was about to give this a download and kick the tires until I read some reviews. Disappointed, 1 star, good in theory, didn't work, cool but unpolished, wasn't going to waste my time. Instead, I shift your focus to RoboIntern. This is an app beloved by radio DJ users. And look at that, right there, big and bold. It'll automate any repetitive task your little heart desires. And it tackles a bunch of them. It's feature rich, but look down here, light on the wallet, absolutely free. Choose your flavor, download it, and get busy. And while we're still in foraging mode, I take it you already have a source for your traffic or news reports. Obviously, traffic is very local. I can't give you any help there. But if you're curious about dipping your toe in the wild world of radio news, I offer 2 unvetted sources, but they've been around a long time. RTT News. If you come over to content licensing, you do see they have some news services with absolutely no reference to how much this is going to set you back. So you got to contact them. This is interesting. Feature Story News. They do look like a full-service news outlet. And if you check out FSN Radio, oh boy, do they have a package for you. And look at this. For internet or community stations, it's just $15 a month. And they have a number of offerings. A news bulletin to fit every mood. So if your curiosity is piqued, well, check that out. Keep in mind, every one of these services will have their own mechanism to deliver the traffic or news reports to you.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper.
We'll create a folder called News Reports, and we'll download this FSN headlines.mp3 file into it, and there we go. Like I said, when you subscribe to a news or traffic service, they will have a workflow. And sometimes they'll even give you a custom app which will automatically download the reports into a directory of your choosing every hour. So let's say we have a main directory called News Reports, and our service automatically downloads those news reports to this folder called Hourly Updates. So let's move the FSN Headlines file into here as if FSN just made that automatic deposit. Let's hop into RoboIntern to discuss the workflow and other options for downloading these files. don't be fooled by the simple interface. Once you start cracking into the actions and triggers, you'll see RoboIntern packs a serious black eye punch. Let's dip our toe in some of these actions. As you can see, it's chock full of some goodies. Now, maybe the scenario is that your news or traffic provider doesn't offer automatic downloads. Ruh-roh. Now what do you do? Well, RoboIntern to the rescue. They have a number of options here. Under web operations, there's a way to download a file from a website. Because bottom line, your content provider, they have to make a file available. If they don't have an app to automate the download into your system, they'll give you access to a folder where you can manually download these files. And of course, they'll give you all the credentials to log in and get the files. So that's where you'd enter in that info if you're downloading a file from a website. Now, the other option is FTP. Download file with FTP, and this is all info that provider would give you. Target local path, that's our news report folder. Now we're good to go. I'm bypassing this step in our sequence because we already have the file. If it's on you to grab this file, that would be number 1 in your stack. Number 2, up in File System Operations, here's what you want to do. You want to move a file. Let me walk you through this. So in our hourly updates folder, we're going to have the latest news report. Our goal is to move it from this folder into news reports. This may be an unnecessary step, but at least doing it this way ensures there's only one news report. You'll always be playing back the freshest file. Let's build this action. Move news report. I'm going to move the file, and we're moving it from hourly updates, okay? Let's just choose the file name in there. But here's the thing. We don't know if this file always is named like this. So the workaround is an asterisk. So this will tell RoboIntern, whatever file is in that folder, and this is really important. You have to make sure there's only one file ever in that folder. You're going to move it, and then you choose the folder you want to move it into, which I want to move it into the root level of news reports. There we go. And if a file exists in there, override it, because obviously news reports are temporary. You run them once, they're done. Let's add that action. An action without a trigger is like a gun without a bullet. There's no point. So when do you want this to run? Now, you have some options here. So obviously you want this to run more than once a day. Click high frequency, and then I think you want to enter the minutes, because this is where it becomes important. Under frequency, you can do every hour, every, 1th hour. And, for news, to be safe, make it 56 after. Because a lot of services will tell you to download the latest report at 55 after. So 56 gives you a minute breathing room. And then you got to let it know, how often do you want to run this? Do you run news Monday through Friday or 7 days a week? And between which hours? Okay. The time trigger has been added. But another option is add a file status trigger. So every time a file is created in your hourly updates folder, once again, we want to do a wildcard here. Any file that comes in here, you will then move it into news reports. Now, the potential gotcha with using an asterisk, it's going to bring in every file in that folder. Now, that's fine if there's ever only one file in that folder at any given time, but who knows? Your news or traffic provider could send you multiple files in an hour, and that becomes an issue. And at that point, I think you have to start learning how to use some dynamic formulas within RoboIntern to set up filters based on the file name. Your provider could add the date and the hour in the file name. So then you'd need to research the specific language RoboIntern expects in those dynamic formulas. And on their site, they say the formulas mimic those of Excel or spreadsheet formulas. So maybe that's of some help. And in that case, you could filter it just by the current hour. But that's something you need to do a deeper dive on. The best case scenario is your service provides a clear and easy method for downloading a single file every hour. Let's go with that assumption. And then you choose whether you want to do it at a specific time or every time a file is created in that folder. So I'm going to choose to do it based on time. Task has been added. I biffed this a touch, but I'm not going back. So I need to add a step here. I need to add an action. We want to rename that file, okay? And within hourly updates, we're just going to say, basically, any folder, and this we want to call this news.mp3. The file exists already, we're going to overwrite it. So then we want to move the rename file, so we'll click move down for move file. Okay, so we're first renaming the file, then we're moving the file. But you have to make sure you want to double check overwrite is selected for if the file exists. Because when we get to Radio DJ, we're going to import one file called news.mp3. Back in news reports, I've simulated last hour's news report, news.mp3, and hourly updates. The new file just arrived, and we're going to run this step by step. So first, we're going to rename this file. News.mp3, brilliant. Now we're going to move the file from that folder to the root news reports folder and overwrite the existing news.mp3. Now let's move this file and you'll see it disappear. Boom, gone, back to news reports. So that's RoboIntern. Now I hope your blood pressure can handle some real fun because we're in Radio DJ. This is where all the action's going to start happening. Instead of doing these complicated folder syncs, I mean, they're really not that complicated, but it's just an unneeded step. I'm going to make this so freaking simple. We're hopping into the Tracks Manager, and maybe you want to create a custom subcategory for your news. So let's say we have FSN News, or you may have a traffic report. Okay, now we have some custom subcategories to work with, and we want to import a file. Oh, and this is going to be so sweet. News reports, news.mp3, or wherever your news.mp3 file lives. Category is news, subcat of FSN News, genre doesn't matter. This is very important. Track type, because you have no control over the running time of these files. Sure, the provider's going to say we offer a 30-second, a 60-second, a 90-second news report, but there's a chance they're not always going to be exactly 30 seconds. So variable duration file is the way to go. If they're providing a dry voiceover without any music, you definitely want to consider running this over a music bed. So you click Overlay File, and then you can name this XXX80s News, or this is your traffic report, or it's your entertainment news report. It's whatever you need it to be. Let's check this out. Now it all looks good. Import it. And that's it. Now the only thing that remains is to create an event. Checky. Name this bad boy Hourly News. I'd make it a manual event. Event actions. So you want to load a track, specifically News, FSN News, add. Like I mentioned, if this service only provides a dry voiceover, I think you owe it to the sound of your station to throw in a news music bed under that voiceover. I mean, I don't have a specific news bed, but for this example, I'll bring in a weather bed. Okay, let's add it. After the news finishes, you could then jingle out to get back to your normal content. So for me, I'll do a station jingle. And remember, when you're building an event, Radio DJ's playlist loads from the top down, so you have to be very mindful of how you order these event actions, because this is a big old fail. If I added this event, it would first load the news, then it would load the weather bed, then it would load the jingle. So this would play back with the jingle, the bed, and then the news. So you want to start with the end in mind. So now we have jingle, news, and then the bed. Close it up. And keep in mind, let's say this was my news bed. The Q editor, you have to drop a next start marker, a little sounder off the top. And then when it hits the next start point, it'll start playing the news voiceover over the rest of this music bed. So you better set your next start point if you want the news report to be triggered. Save it. Let's test this event out. Hourly News. We have the weather / news bed, news report, and then the jingle. But a very good question you're pondering. Is Radio DJ Dude full of koala poop, or does this actually work? Well, feast your ears on this.
Weather.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper.
Okay, let's fast forward.
From President Vladimir Putin.
All new music. Flashback. XXX80s.
That worked. That was a success. I think a couple things you want to keep in mind. Since you're playing back these files raw and you're not doing any post-processing, levels are going to be an issue. There's no way to add compression or normalize the levels of some of these news reports unless you had another chain in your workflow where you have a script that actually runs some audio processing automatically and then saves that file back in the news report folder. But the other way around that, when you produce your news sounder bed, just make sure to really dip those levels low enough so they're not competing with the news file. I really think there is something to crack this code of automating your audio processing workflow. So I'm going to give this a little more thought and stay tuned. In the future, if I do that video, well, right up there to the right, a link will appear. But I think that would be tremendously helpful, not just for news and traffic, but to automate audio processing to so many other types of content. So I'll go to the laboratory and see what I could cook up for you. And you noticed how it was pretty tight, too? The jingle was right on the heels of the voiceover. It might be nice to have a little separation. So I've talked about this in the past. I have these rotation elements, and I have these silence files. So here's a half second of silence in all its glory. I'd like to go back to that news event and load up this little breather track, okay? And this is silence half. I'm adding this file, adding the action, and I want to put it right after the news. And you know what I could do is drop one in right before the news, just so there's enough separation, some breathing room. And this is just a dummy silent file that I created in Audacity. We have a silent sandwich between our news report. Let's save this and see how that sounds. Okay, hourly news, let's load it up. There we go.
Weather.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper.
Okay, let's speed up here.
With Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Super 80s.
Triple X 80s.
So much better. That really has a pro sound. Since we've last chatted, a lot has happened here over at the Triple X 80s Command Center. Why don't we catapult this up to the next level and add a traffic report after our news segment? We now have a very stimulating news bed. News stager, that's up first. Let's add that. And we're going to replace the weather bed with the news stager. And because I'm the YouTube dude who cares, I even prepared a traffic sounder for you. Okay, we have a lot going on here, and I'm not even 100% sure it's all going to work. So buckle up. The adventure begins. With the click of this button, all will be revealed. Let's review. News stager. Our little silent break. The news. Another hit of silence. The traffic sounder, the traffic report, the jingle. And back to the hot hits of the 80s. Okay, strap on your protective earwear. Let's see if this goes as planned.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper.
Fast forward, please.
With Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Traffic.
In the Triple X 80s Traffic Center, I'm Rusty Bumpers. Okay, let's speed up here. And that's a look at your sucky Los Angeles traffic on Triple X 80s.
The best music.
Triple X 80s.
And an appropriate 80s jam. We are partying because that was a big old success. That actually sounded pretty good. I dig that. So this was a standalone hourly news event. You're probably going to want to bake that in to your existing top of the hour event. You can definitely add your news actions within this event, or something else I'm a big fan of and have mentioned plenty of times in the past is to create a rotation element using my infamous dummy silent files as a trigger. And this is just a silent file. Let's call this TOH News, top of the hour news. And then on the others tab, we want to tell Radio DJ when you start this file, top of the hour news, we want you to trigger the hourly news event. Save this, top of the hour news. So what do you do with this? Well, that's the power of these dummy files. I can do anything I want with this. I can move this over into my playlist and watch what happens when I hit play. It fires it off just like that. Granted, you can't hear it, but it is playing. What else can I do with this? Plenty. In my normal top of the hour rotation, Now all I have to do, I can embed another event in my existing top of the hour event by simply loading this track, which is top of the hour news, add it, and then of course you move this around to where you want Radio DJ to play it within your playlist and the event. Or you can do all this within your rotation. Set the category, rotation elements. You want top of the hour news. Boom, boom, boom. To the top, baby. And now you're in business. And to me, that's the easiest way to automate a news, traffic, entertainment report into an automated station. So Brad from Australia, hopefully some of your mental gridlock has been lessened by this little deep dive on how to get traffic and news reports on your air. Now, if you have a burning question that you feel only this radio DJ dude can answer, well, please share it right there. Hit me up in the comments, ask away, and you never know, the very next video could be all about you. I'm Jeff, the Radio DJ Dude, and if you got a little something out of this video, maybe your life was made this much juicier, well, I'd love a like and subscribe from you. Thank you so much. And until our XLR cables cross in the future, you keep rocking those mics all over the world.